There is a moment in Predator, Badlands, when the camera lingers on the face of Dec, the exiled hunter. Beneath his gleaming mask and alien anatomy, the film seems to whisper, "This is the new face of civilization." A species capable of crossing galaxies, yet bound by the same primitive laws that once governed our caves. The paradox is not subtle. It is, in fact, the very core of the movie's tragedy, and of the modern blockbuster itself. Dec's exile is the film's only true idea. In a world where strength defines worth, weakness is not forgiven. It is erased. His father commands his death. His brother carries out the order, and the only path left to the younger. Predator is violence, the same code that condemned him. This structure on paper promises mythic resonance, but Badlands mistakes repetition for depth. It inherits the aesthetic grandeur of its franchise, ancestors without inheriting their moral unease. The film worships the hunt even as it pretends to question it. Opposite Dec stands Thia, the android envoy of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, the ghost of humanity's arrogance, rendered in synthetic flesh. She arrives with a mission carved from corporate hubris, to capture a specimen, to dissect divinity, to turn biology into product. The irony is neat, perhaps too neat. Thia represents intelligence without soul, logic without empathy. Yet as the story unfolds, she becomes the film's conscience, the only being who perceives that both human, science, and alien tradition are merely different masks worn by the same will to dominate. Together, Dec and Thia form a mirror. One is the product of ritual violence, the other of industrial greed. Both are slaves, one to the myth of honor, the other to the myth of progress. Their uneasy alliance could have been profound, a meditation on the impossibility of redemption in systems built on control. Instead, the screenplay buries that potential under layers of spectacle. Plasma bolts replace philosophy. Explosion, silence, introspection. The movie's action choreography is extraordinary, but it is also desperate, as if the film fears the stillness where meaning might have been found. This is the great illusion of Predator, Badlands. It wants to speak the language of myth while selling the grammar of adrenaline. It borrows the posture of tragedy, the son betrayed by the father, the machine discovering its makers, corruption, but treats those gestures as mere set decoration. The audience is expected to feel awe, not empathy, shock, not recognition. Even the film's moral question, can a monster transcend its nature, is asked without sincerity. Dec's final choice not to kill feels less like enlightenment than exhaustion, a narrative checkbox ticked before the end credits roll. The deeper failure is cultural, not cinematic. Badlands is the symptom of a broader fatigue in storytelling, a fear of invention masked as nostalgia. Predecessors, echoes of the jungle hunts, the thermal visions, the clicking growls, but uses these icons as currency rather than language. Each reference buys a burst of recognition, a flicker of dopamine in the viewer's brain, but nothing lingers. The past becomes a vending machine of imagery. The myth devours itself. It is tempting to excuse this repetition as inevitable in franchise cinema. After all, the audience demands familiarity. But the truth is harsher. Audiences have been trained to demand it. The studios no longer chase meaning. They chase memory. Predator. Badlands does not seek to terrify or enlighten. It seeks to reassure. It tells us that the hunt still thrills, that the old gods still roar, that the ritual continues. It flatters our appetite for noise and calls it nostalgia. From a screenwriting perspective, this is the ultimate betrayal of structure. The hero's journey here is not a path of transformation, but a treadmill. Dec's arc begins and ends in the same emotional landscape. A world where killing is currency and silence is death. Thia's supposed awakening from machine to moral being serves only to remind us how hollow the film's conception of humanity has become. When even an android feels more alive than the story's ideas, the machine has won. Visually, the film is immaculate. The digital wastelands of Jenna shimmer with hostile beauty. The creature designs are a triumph of detail. but craft cannot conceal emptiness. Every shot, no matter how exquisite, leads back to nothingness, a cinematic Ouroboros feeding on its own past. The more realistic the textures, the more artificial the experience. It is a world that looks alive but does not live. What might have saved Badlands? Perhaps courage. The courage to imagine beyond the template. To ask, what does it mean for a civilization to master the stars but not its own violence? What happens when technology and instinct merge so completely that morality becomes obsolete? These questions hover at the film's edges like ghosts, unacknowledged. Instead, we are given more lasers, more bodies, more spectacle, a symphony of noise conducted by fear of silence. In the end, Predator, Badlands is not about aliens or androids. It is about us, a mirror held to a culture that mistakes stimulation for meaning. Deck's quest to prove his worth mirrors Hollywood's own obsession with proving relevance through louder effects and bigger worlds. Thia's programmed. Obedience echoes the industry's submission to algorithms and focus groups. Both creatures are trapped, and so are we, caught in the beautiful cage of our own consumption. And that leads to the real tragedy, the audience itself. For decades, a certain class of moviegoers has kept cinema alive, the seekers, the ones who enter the dark not for escape but for revelation. They have tolerated spectacle because occasionally it carried truth. But what happens when the spectacle forgets why it exists? When every release is an echo, every franchise a reanimated corpse, every script an instruction manual for marketing? The answer is already visible in the dimming lights of the multiplex. The crowd still gathers, chasing the communal rush of sound and fury. Yet each time the credits roll, the silence grows longer, the memory shorter. If this cycle continues, if films like Predator, Badlands keep mistaking noise for vision, then the industry will not be killed by critics, or by technology, but by amnesia. Because the truth is simple and brutal. A society that replaces storytelling with spectacle will eventually forget how to feel. And when feeling dies, cinema dies with it.